All right, we are live. Let me get this tweeted out here. All right, I hope everybody had a great trading day today. Well, today SPX, kind of interesting. I mean, finished green, and most importantly, or most interestingly, finished with an inside day, right? So inside days are really interesting. As we know, they signify a point of indecision in price, right? When price continues to break outside of its prior price ranges, in this case, gap, right? Inside day right here. Okay, what happened at this inside day, right? It broke to the upside and gave a nice move, right? So that was from 28.15 all the way up to 28.30, so a nice 15-point move on that break. And then we have these kind of other moves and setups that take place on candlesticks, and then boom, here we go again, inside day. So what's Friday going to bring? Is it going to be another choppy day and give us a double inside day on the SPX, sort of like it did on Apple? So we're going to see how the setup on this is tomorrow. If you're a subscriber to the newsletter, right? We also have the free alert, the private Twitter alert system. If this looks really good, there'll probably be an alert on Apple tomorrow. So just keep in mind tomorrow is Friday, so just be careful with your options, right? We have option expiration day. So if you're trading the weekly auctions, just be careful after 12 o'clock. That theta starts to really pick up. And theta is that time decay. So, these Friday options you got to really battle, especially in the afternoon. You really have to battle that time decay to make any really decent money off of it, right? But occasionally you can find something really cheap, and if it gets a really big move, you can really profit from it. So, but I guess that's why we call them Friday lottos sometimes. So, but just be careful. You don't want to get caught holding an option into expiration, right? Because you might get put some of those shares or something like that. So just keep that in mind, right? We would just want to trade the options and get out of it and make some money and be done, right? So here we go. So Apple double inside day, right? Basic strategy is, right, we gap outside of it, right? Market is weak, comes back in, reclaims the range, gap below it is another other option, right? Market strong, reclaims the range that way, gaps in the middle of it. We kind of pay attention to the market strength and usually use the VWAP as a kind of a stopping point, but then hopefully at that point try to trade the break to the upside or to the downside. And finally, you have sort of a potential break to the upside, then a reclaim back in, and a potential reclaim to the downside, and break back in. So, but typically we like a gap up or a gap down. Now, again, it's been pretty choppy sessions recently. So, and the futures right now are up 250 something like that. So, we'll see how we start out. Let's take a look at ES right here and see how on the ES. This is your S&P futures. So we've got we have this level right here. This is a volumetric level on the ES, and is actually pushed up and is kind of holding that right now. We have a cloud. So if we get some strength, we might test tonight this 28.29 level again. Kind of very comparable to what we saw here around 7 o'clock, and then there's a good chance that it breaks to the upside. Obviously, it can do whatever it wants to. It could chop around, give us a double in today, whatever the case is, right? So, so that's basically that. Let me go check here. See how this looks. So your daily, right? We've been talking about the pitchfork, going through all of basically all of 2018, through this bottom here. This helped us kind of see this pivot here at the bottom, and then kind of retrace this entire range, right? We pivoted at the upper pitchfork level, right? Came back down, came back in again, and now we're kind of in this kind of key level, right? We had this pivot, this pivot, this pivot, this pivot, this pivot, and we're right in that range, right? So we are in a very key congestion zone right here. So that the SPX is going to have to break out one way or another. So right now we're a little bit closer to the tops than we are to the bottoms, right? So it doesn't mean it can't break to the downside, but there is a possibility that we break and hit kind of all-time highs. So we'll just keep an eye on that and trade in the direction of the trend and do as best we can with that. So awesome. So I hope everything's going well. Let's make sure everything okay. Good. The stream's coming through. So today's technical topic is going to be pretty simple. In the past here, we've talked about linear regression channels, right? And so the linear regression channel kind of shows you, sort of these standard deviations above and below the linear regression line, right? And so a lot of times when we see the channels, and we talked about this last night, we like to kind of trade off of those channels and back in. And so today I kind of want to show you something different, just kind of a little bit of a different perspective. So let's take a look at a daily chart on anything. So here's we could take, like, say Amazon, a new drawing set. Okay, so just kind of clear everything off there. All right, so what we see here is what we're going to talk about today is just the regression lines. Okay, so we've talked about the regression channel. So tonight we're going to talk about regression lines. That's here at the bottom. Here you just click on that. You click the line with the R over it, R for regression. And then what we do is this helps us to kind of keep track of the trend that we're in, right? So obviously from from October, down at the bottom, what we could have done is, let's say, hey, this first push down, we could have gone, say, from this line to let's see, to here. So that first area. In fact, it's kind of interesting, right? Because it takes the averages of them all. So if we just took it here, right, and let's say I brighten it up a little bit and go make it size 3 there. Okay, so you can kind of see this, right? So as we zoom in on that line, right, as we came to the top to the bottom, what we notice is that, right, the price action, it goes below it, and once it gets far enough below it, it comes back into it, goes back over it, comes back into it, right? When it goes below it, comes back into it, below it, comes back into it, above it, comes back into it, right? So that's the sort of that regression or the reversion to the mean, right? And so so now how do we use that in our trading? So I kind of made the title of today's video. Using regression lines to nail down your trades, right? And so the idea is we want to find sort of like a point where we can, kind of a solid point that we can keep in the back burner, right? Of where we kind of maybe want to trade to when we're looking for setups, okay? So obviously, scalping and, finding, quick moves. Let's say you have a hammer right here, a little break off of that to the upside, inside day here, possibly get a break to the upside or downside. But in general, for the longer term kind of perspective, what we'll do is we click on this line here, and then you can see how it moves dynamically. But as I move forward in time or backward in time, right, it just takes the average, right, of all the prices that are between that time frame, right, and then it puts it draws a best fit line there. And so you can see here as Amazon flattens out here in price, so does the linear regression channel. Right, and then it kind of comes back up, and you can kind of see this. What this does is it gauges your trend, right? So the slope here, and you can actually see it in the pop-up box. It's hard for me to go over because it keeps jumping around, right? But see that degree at the bottom? So it's a 75 degree, right? 85 degrees. So that kind of shows you how intense the trend is, right? And so here we're 45 degree angle, right? That's I think anything over 45 is definitely bullish, right? Because that's your that midpoint between 90 degrees, right, and 0. And then so here as it flattens out, right, the trend kind of gets flat. Right, and now here we are again up into today. And so what we do is we put the linear regression line there. So we put the regression line there, edit, and then I'm just going to change the colors, make it a little bit brighter. There we go. And so interestingly enough, as you can see, we were below it here, above it here, right, back to it, below it, back to it, bounced off of it, back to it, down below it, back to it. Now we're above it, right? Back to it. So we've recently tagged this linear regression line, and so it is very possible that this inside day on Amazon breaks to the upside. But what we want to do is look and see when it gets a little bit too far where it might go. So what we'll do is we'll right-click on that, and we'll extend it to the right, okay? So we can kind of use that to keep perspective. And then what we'll do is we'll go to a shorter-term time frame, and let's see what I got down here. I think interesting. These are cool charts that newsletter subscribers get to see. So let me see. Let's go up here. All right. So if we go to the 5-minute time frame, I just kind of zoom out. 5 is going to be a little bit hard to see because Amazon's such a big mover. Let's see. There. Let's go to the hourly. Should be able to see it on the hourly. Where did it go? Maybe I just need to, that's default. Let me go Amazon drawing set name. There it is. Okay. So, yeah, let's go back to the 5. Can we see it on the 5? Oh, I gotta add it here, right? Yeah, sorry. Gets a little tricky. All right, there it is. So there's our linear regression channel, right? So you can see we tagged it, right? And then we, we put in this hammer day today. So the idea is you can kind of see, this just kind of gives you a perspective, right? It gives you a, I guys like to use the term anchor, but it gives you a place where we could nail down these trades to. Like, when are we getting to the point where we're overextended, right? And then we're going to come back to this. So in this case, we're over the linear regression line, right? And so the idea is we will look for key points where it would make sense to move back to that line, right? And so that's where you incorporate other tools, right? If we get to like a volumetric level, like right here at like 1797, where we find some resistance, well, the chances are, trying to find a setup where we could go short might be good because it's going to lead us back to the linear regression channel, right? And then, even here today, right? So we have the Darvis box, right? So this was a Darvis box here. Here was your high. As we approach that, right, we also have this linear regression channel dynamic right here into, you can see these the blue profile lines. So we ticked up high here, high on the linear regression channel on the 15, boom, back down toward the linear regression line, right? So it's basically at this point when you're over it, you look for good short setups, and when you're below it, you look for good long setups, right? So in general, right? So especially if depending on the location of it. Ideally, when it's pointing in an up direction where the degrees are positive, you want to be below it so you could head back into the main trend, right? So, but we still have to trade. We're traders. We look for setups, right? So we try to find places where you can come back to it. So here's your linear regression line. I know this is really messy, guys, and I apologize, but I just want to kind of zoom in here on the hourly. Look here. You can see this shooting star, or Southern Doji right here. It was 1823. Hit back here on basically what was that, the 21st or so? Yeah, on the 21st. And where did it hit? It hit an upper Bollinger Band line. Okay, so from there, that's not such a bad place to be like, okay, let's head back to the linear regression channel, right? So that just kind of gives you an idea. And finally, obviously we came back up again and then back down. So it just starts to give you ideas. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but here we hit the upper Bollinger Band again, and we got a little push to the downside. So it's just looking for setups that bring you back to the mean, right? So here it was actually pretty recent off of the linear regression, so we had a little move up, right? Slight move back, and then finally it got extended enough where it goes back. And that is where we go back to possibly adding our channels into the situation, right? So, but for the most part here, just, we look at Amazon, it got overextended here, couple closes over the upper Bollinger Band, finally got overbought here on the RSI. And so when you combine those tools where we know we're overbought, and I think it was even a bearish divergence on the RSI as well. Let me just double check. Yeah, it was from way back yonder, but a bearish divergence here, so we were overbought over the upper Bollinger Band. So a nice move back, potentially to, where is this? The linear regression channel, right? So there we go. So we just hit it, so here it looks like a possible move forward to the upside, but let's just be careful here because look at our moving averages, right? The 5 MA on the daily is in a bow tie, right? A death cross right now through the 10 MA. So just be careful with this one. If the market does get weak tomorrow and we break this tail to the downside, we might tag the linear regression channel again and possibly move below it, maybe to the 200-day, somewhere around like 1734. So hopefully that gives you some perspective. So that's just the idea. Here's the line, right? When you're below it, right? Especially if it's an uptrend, that's the place you want to be, right? Because that gives you a good shot, at going long again. And then here, when you're in the upside, we just have to look for, key situations where you're overextended or overbought to trade back to the linear regression channel, right? And then every now and again, you want to go back and just reevaluate your trend, right? Because this is just a line now. It is no longer dynamic. So eventually, if we get, another big move, you might want to redraw that regression line so that it gives you the proper perspective. So hopefully you find that helpful and adds a little value to your trading. At this point, if anybody's got any questions or chart requests, please plug them into the chat box, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. And again, thank you to all new subscribers to the newsletter. Appreciate you guys, and lots of fun stuff happening there. Karen, what's going on? Good to see you. Option Virus, what's up, buddy? Good evening. Andrew, how's it going, man? Lots of Inside 60 anchors tomorrow, so should be some good stuff. NetFry, what's going on? VFF, absolutely. VFF Village Farm. So pretty cool. This one's already had the full death cross there on the since the highs here up at 18 at the upper Bollinger Band, right? It was overbought and then finally kind of pulled back in here to the mid Bollinger Band, gave you a nice green inside day, right? So that's always good to see. Your weekly here so far is forming kind of like a a red possibly a hangman, and your monthly is actually putting in kind of a shooting star, so just be careful there. If it pulls back any further, that would give you a monthly, could give you a monthly kind of inverted hammer, shooting star, really, pretty solid. And then we'll have to see how next month looks. Now, keep in mind, guys, not only is it the end of the week, but a new month starts tomorrow, which means a whole new set of charts. If you guys are in the private stream, right, we tweet out the pivot levels on the monthly, so all that's going to change. The weeklies are going to change, and the dailies are going to change for Monday. So lots of cool setups are coming up pretty soon for April. And keep in mind too that it's the end of the quarter as well. So we're going to start seeing some potentially some flows coming in too, if the funds feel like buying some more. That we could see us going to new highs just based on that. So so there you go. And hey, Netfry VFF also put in a double inside 60 anchor. So that's if you feel like trading this one at the open, it could give you some action. Peter HK, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Prayer Kid, what's going on? Good, always good to see you, man. Richard, what's going on? Good day today, man. That's awesome. Ravi Kumar, what's up? Let's see. WBA, yep, for upcoming earnings, absolutely, yeah. So again, you guys know I don't like to trade into earnings. I don't recommend it because it could go either way, right? So unless you're doing a 100% lotto play, which means it's basically a gamble going into it if you go up or down. But in the meantime, personally, it's been doing pretty good. Well, it's looked really interesting, right? We had this huge move down, and Netfry actually pointed this out when all the kind of these healthcare type stocks were really taking a tumble, right? And what did it do? It stopped right here at the, my friend Scott actually caught this and traded this with options all the way up here. I mean, just a solid, steady move up from, what was this, 59 all the way up to 64. So great move on WBA there. So that was the first move. Now we're kind of, you can see this here. Look, we finally got that gold cross there. Now we're kind of bow tying right here at a shooting star today. And so now we're kind of going into earnings, kind of flattish, right? So just keep in mind here, it did get oversold here. So maybe it's time for it to have at least something good with earnings or some sort of good growth forecast that it could get it to move up here. Kind of note here in the cloud, it's getting thin. Usually these are points of inflection, right? So the ideal situation, right, is that earnings are really, really good. Pierre, what's going on? Does it take average of close or average of high, low close? That is a great question. I believe it takes the average of the day. So I guess it would. So I think it takes the average of the high, low. I have to double check that. But that's a good question. Let me see. One way to do it actually is to just go to education here and go to regression line. And this is all within Thinkorswim, if my Thinkorswim will allow me to do it. So regression. If it will. Regression ASDF. There we go. And let's see. Regression line. Technical analysis using the regression line. Onyx regression line. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Properties, no. It doesn't give. Okay, yes, yeah, so there's a certain amount of bars that it uses. You could set that. I think like the default is like 26 or something. And let's see, left extension, label position. I do not know. I will have to get back to you on that. So let's see. There's only interpolation of bars defined by equation. All right, yeah, here we go. So current bar plus B. Here we go. Linridge. Okay, it takes the sum of x and y, or x. Okay, so it takes the close. It uses, all right, so here it uses basically 20 bars, and then it uses the close, I guess. And then it sums those up, and then averages those out. It looks like it uses a little more stuff too. So it's got uses your. Oh yeah, so it's a little bit. I guess it's a little more than a straight average. So so hopefully that's helpful. I don't know, man. If it's over it, right? Just try to trade towards it. If it's under, try to trade up on top of it. So, but good question. Richard, let's take a look at Tesla. Yeah, absolutely. So Tesla is and Pierre is here too. So for the Tesla challenge, he'd be the expert to ask on this. But Tesla, honestly, you guys know I was waiting for a push here to like kind of that support at 247. And then it kind of gave us this doji day here, and then it didn't quite close below. I like it when it closes below the lower Bollinger Band and then gives you a push back up. So here I was like, here it did the same thing, right? It was a doji and then just kind of move up a little bit. This one just got a little more push. What I want to do is kind of show you guys maybe how you could have caught this. So that's kind of where we're at now. Now we've got sort of a spinning top at the at the mid Bollinger Band on the daily. But if we look at the weekly Keltner channel, I'm using a different calculation on the Keltner there. If you just use the base Keltner channel on it, let me zoom over here. Right, here you can see we had a bit of a falling wedge. Now you could have drawn a more accurate one. I think we saw one on Twitter earlier, but that gave a better break. But in terms of this, it did quite well. If you do a weekly Keltner channel on this, I was looking earlier. Boom, right here. So this is kind of your default Keltner, and so broke it down. Look at that, it tagged the weekly low right there, and it just launched off of that. So that was just kind of a little bit something. But right now it's still, I don't know. That was a pretty big move right on the week right there to kind of go long or try to swing it long right here. And what I don't like too is that look at Tesla. It's just this. It's in this kind of megaphone range right now, and it's just kind of just all crazy, right? So the only thing I don't like is the Keltners are all pointing down. So we're kind of on the other side of things. So right now, this is implying that it's a downward trend, right? So if anything, if it came back up to this level here, this 295, that might be a good shorting opportunity, in my humble opinion. Look, it did the same thing on the daily too. Hit that daily Keltner and then all the way back up. So nice regression move right there on that. So hopefully that gives a little bit more perspective on it. It does. So that's basically what I'm seeing on that. Tesla. Alexander, what's going on, bud? Google into the open. Okay, so Google did not give us our inside 60 anchor like we like, but I will say this. This is what I was seeing on Google earlier. It's got some work to do, but yesterday we did we covered different types of channels, right? We talked about Bollinger Bands, Keltner channels. We talked about horizontal channels, right? And these are trend channels, right? So this line is not a regression channel, but we could put one up there and see what it looks like. Just from here to here, very similar. Right? So if we look at that one, it's got a little bit to go, but I just kind of just grabbed the high pivots and the low pivots, and right now we're just kind of like below it, right? So Google kind of needs to hold this level, right? We're at the fib fan line, we're at the lower of the channel, and it looks like if it can hold here, we might push up and try to test the other side of that channel there. So it's definitely on the radar. I also like, if you guys kind of look at it here, right? We've got obviously, essentially like a falling wedge type thing going on. So if it's gonna break, it's got enough energy right here, I think, with this move to kind of pop up. So that's kind of how I'm seeing Google now. At the open, not sure, but I'll watch to see if it breaks through, kind of those areas. Patchy, what's going on, bud? Did you trade the Lulu? I did not. No, I didn't mess with Lulu today. Okay, so yeah, here's the deal with getting faked out on orbs. So you want to see exactly where you open, right, relative to everything else, right? So last night when we talked about this, I think we were at 164, right? But that's not where we opened, right? So we opened above, right, this huge pivot right here. We basically opened into new highs. Okay, so basically what you're doing, you had maybe some people were short right here at this pivot, so you're gonna have some covering and all that stuff. So this is kind of one of those situations that even though it's on the 15 orb, you just have to. Let's go to the 5 and just see what it did. It's just tough. These ones are just tough, because it opened here, pushed, right? It kind of maybe tried to get an extreme move off of that at the open, and then it came back in, just totally nasty, right? And like you see here, right, it had this push, right, broke through that orb right there and then couldn't quite do it. So what happens is if you have a really big orb, and let's go and see what that is. And I've kind of chatted about this a little bit in the past. Let me find another 15 there. All right. So if you have a really big bar like this, so your range of this bar is about 4.9, right? The average size of the bar is less than that, right? These are like 98 cents. So you basically have 4 times the size of an average bar in the first orb. So those are the ones you kind of want to watch out for, especially if they have a big. There's 2 things I don't like about it, right? There's the big shadows here, and then the fact that it's a really big bar compared to the rest of the average kind of true range of those bars, right? One thing that I do like that is tradable is you have this inside 15 bar. You can trade that, right? So you have this 170 break, and that gives you a point up there to 171.45. So you get to capitalize on 2 breaks there. You capitalize on the inside 15 break, and then you get hopefully a break right there of the 171.04, and then you get that. And so that's kind of a decent move right there. Now it didn't go 20 points, but you also want to see how much it's gapping too, right? There's a certain point where it's just like, enough is enough, right? So this was a huge gap. It pushed up. Now I would have said if it, because it gapped over those prior pivots, it would have given more of a push. But keep in mind too, you're at all-time highs, which means, you might be the only buyer up there, right? So there's not a lot of, as you could say, like supply up there, right? Supply of shares, right? Because you're at new highs. So there's a couple things to consider there that make it a little bit more complicated. So that kind of really stinks here. But we'll keep it on the watch list tomorrow on the 30. But anytime you get like these big shadows, you can kind of see, kind of look there too. One thing you could also look at is just the real body too. So ignore the shadows and just trade off the real body. So if you did that, right, so you're here, you're at this kind of 169 level, and that break there to the upside, right, because it was down here, and then it broke that real body to the upside, and that was 169.20, and that took you, a good 2 points up. So I think that's tradable too. So especially if you have these huge shadows on a 15 orb, right, because it was just it kind of ran out of steam after that, and then the rest of the day was just choppy. So kind of an annoying one right there. Kind of disappointing end to earnings season with that orb right there. So yeah. Those are a couple different things to consider. So look for the inside bar. Look if you have big range right there. Look to trade the real body inside the shadows. Let's see. Yeah, sorry about that. No problem, Nefra. Yeah, my pleasure. Shirley, what's going on? Good to see you. Everybody, Shirley, pay attention to her entries. Sometimes she catches an amazing one. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so DNR, the do not resuscitate stock, right? Okay, yeah, so it's kind of doing its thing, right? We still have its volumetric level here, and we have the fib fan level here. So that 228, 230 break, is kind of key right there, right? So just be careful of that. So 225, right? And then that might give you a nice push. WY. Here. Okay, cool. That's really neat, isn't it? All right, so we have the fib fan line from high to low, right? So I like how it kind of hung out in this channel here, and then boom, you get this nice breakout here. I would look for a little bit of consolidation, and then maybe another push up to that 27. Then your levels are looking good. S-Bucks. I mean, guys, have you guys seen how amazing Starbucks has been since earnings, right? So we were tracking it right all the way up here. This is where we went long in it, not too long ago, and then we had some sideways action, sort of like an extended flat right here, and then down, and then this awesome move to the upside. So I mean, it's just been pretty incredible, really. So it's starting to get a little bit overbought here. So just be careful of that, Shirley, because as you can see, Starbucks does like to chop, but Starbucks can be fun to trade on a Friday too. So keep that in mind. Good old Wendy's. How's old Wendy's doing? Wendy's is actually fun to trade. It stays pretty liquid, and the spreads aren't that bad at all. But right now, it's just been kind of super duper choppy in this range. So it definitely is looking for a break at some point, right? So we kind of have this this cup, maybe we tried to do like a handle break here, kind of broke down a little bit. It's kind of curling back over. So I do like at 1811. I think could give you a push up to that 1868 level again. and then hopefully a break. FMCKJ. This probably won't show up on my chart. Oh, it did. Okay. Yeah, nice break right there. Break through volumetric resistance. Kind of a little W bottom right there. So yeah, so I think potential move right there. Robbie, no problem, my pleasure. Patchy, surely had to put. I know it surely is a rock star. She says, you don't see the Patchy. I really only trade spot. Yeah, man. So that's cool. Yeah, in the I basically am just mostly focusing on SPX during the day, just because the options really move, and that's been pretty fun as well. And Tesla, yeah, Tesla's a wild thing, but talk to Pierre about that one. I don't look for any plays on tickers, but I want to expand. Yeah, yeah, a couple key ones. Fun to watch like certain stocks. I like to look at all the FANG stocks, and I try to tweet those out every night too. And sometimes you can find some really good setups on that, especially off of Fibonacci resistance and things like that. It's fun. Starbucks, there are trades in them as well. Nice. 83. You don't limit yourself. Nice. Yeah, she likes those longs. Richard, no problem, man. My pleasure. Should I look at everything, but if it put in the chat, it's a buy signal. Everybody understand going long. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Shirley is a bull. So Alexander, cool. No, yeah, no problem, guys. I really appreciate everybody always for tuning in, checking us out. If you're new to the YouTube, check me out on Twitter. I'm at True Bubblehead. All the links are in the description below. We have a newsletter that goes out every week and gives a full market perspective. We get really in depth on the SPX. And then we even put a trade in the week in there. This week was Nike, and our target was what was it? Was 84. We had this down on earnings, but it had good earnings, right? So that was the first trigger that it might reverse. We had the Avenatti nonsense that came out, so really could have picked this up at about 80 on the nonsense news, and they arrested that guy, and then it just pushed right up and gapped up, and it was a great trade. So we actually successfully swung that trade within a day, and we hit our target, and we were out. So check that out. It's a good deal on the newsletter. Plus, you get access to the private Twitter feed. I give you a copy of my book, The Secret to Trading the Open, and a bunch of other kind of cool freebies and stuff like that. So check that out. And yeah. So there we go. So thank you everybody for participating. I hope you guys have a great trading day tomorrow. Remember, it's Friday. Just be careful of option expiration. And Monday is going to be a whole new quarter, a whole new month, a whole new week, and a whole new day. So I will talk to you guys later.